Welcome to TSIB Talks, where we share information on construction insurance and its possible effect on your business. Enjoy our latest episode.
Welcome to another episode of TSIB Talks. Today's guests are actually returning guests, Valerie and James. Both of you have been on this podcast before, and we're happy to have you back. Before we start, can you just introduce yourselves again for those who don't know you?
I'm Valerie Zepeda. I am the claims manager for TSIB. I oversee workers' compensation claims for the retail division, West Coast. And I've been doing workers' comp for about 15 years, mainly worked on the employer side for about 10 years and made my way over to the broker side about 5 years ago.
James Pfeiffer, I'm the director of wrap-up sales for TSIB in the retail division. I've been with the company since 2008, in the industry since 2007. The entire time I've been working with wrap-ups.
That's awesome. Well, again, welcome back and thanks for joining us today. Today's episode is on incident investigation to prevent claims. Valerie, the majority of your clients are on the West Coast, so why don't you kick things off and tell us about the general landscape of workers' comp in California?
Yeah, workers' comp in California, it's a whole other ballgame than any other state. I know it like the back of my hand. What I've seen in my experience is that some employees will litigate no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's just what's going to happen. It's already in there. That's the intention from the jump, right? And then there's also employees that just want to get back to work, that just want to get better. They've never had an injury on the job before, and they just want to make sure that they're going to recover and that they're going to have a paycheck. That's all they want. And so if we make sure that our clients have an open line of communication with those employees and that the employees feel educated throughout the claims process and they're reassured that they're going to have a job when they come back. Or in this case, we're talking about return to work programs. The employees' morale stays up. They feel a sense of security while they're recovering. So they know that they're on a road to recovery. That mitigates exposure to litigation.
Would you say that the folks that are just, the one like you mentioned, they're just always going to litigate? You think there's a plurality of those, or is it mostly people just want to get back to work and you focus on them and you treat the former as like a cost of doing business in California?
That's a good question. I think that the majority of people just want to recover and get back to work, but we do have a good person. Let's just say if I had to give it a percentage, I'd probably say like maybe 80% of people just want to recover and get back to work.
Sure.
And a good 20% is they've either had workers' comp claims in the past, some sort of lump sum settlement, or know somebody who has gotten some sort of lump sum settlement. And so I've seen it where they have that intention from the very beginning. And no matter how much communication you have with them, like they're just going to retain counsel anyway.
It's kind of like that Pareto principle, right? Like 20% of the people create 80% of the issues.
Yeah. And and they're within their right to retain counsel. I mean, a lot of those injuries are still valid. It's just that they choose to retain counsel, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I like to do with our clients is ensure that we do everything we can to have open lines of communication with the employee, educating the employee throughout the claims process so that they don't feel like they need to go out and retain counsel. They can if they want to. I never discourage them from getting legal advice.
Sure.
But when they feel educated, they feel empowered. And when they feel empowered, they feel more comfortable with the process. And they just want to get back to work.
Yeah. Sounds like you advise taking the approach of making sure the claimant feels taken care of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not out there on their own.
Yeah. And we do come across the red flag type claims, or the questionable claims, we'll call them. And I treat those just as I treat somebody who's had like a valid incident that is maybe witnessed by somebody.
Right.
You got to treat them the same way. And also with a questionable claim is making sure that the carrier has all the information they need so that they can go out and investigate and make their own determination whether they're going to accept or deny a claim.
What do you advise on like in incident investigations?
Like in what aspect?
Well, just is that an effective measure in keeping costs down in the long run? Like when you see an incident happen,
I think documentation is key. There's never going to be like too much, or it's never going to be overkill, because any information, as much information that you provide to the insurance carrier, is going to be helpful for them.
Sure.
They're never going to say this is too much, stop sending us stuff.
Yeah.
They want as much information as possible.
Okay.
And so that's why I've designed a couple of incident investigation forms, one of them being an employee incident form. And one of the questions that I added on that form is, what is the cause of the accident? I want the employee to answer that. I want to see what they say, because supervisors aren't always out on the floor or on the job site with the employee. So then there might be something on the job site that the supervisor hasn't noticed that the employee has, right?
Yeah.
Whether it be a pothole, whether it be maybe there's a pipe leaking water, right? And then the other question for the employee on this incident form is, what actions could be taken to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future? That is the employee's feedback.
Interesting.
We want to know what the employee is going to say right there. Because again, supervisors, safety managers, or our clients are even owners too, right?
Yeah.
They act as supervisors. And so there's probably something, a hazard on the job site that they haven't seen. And so I love to always refer back to that and see what the employee puts there, because that is going to help us identify the root cause of an incident. So that is key.
What kind of insights have you gleaned from that? Just is that typical, or is that something that, like that, asking that question from the employee's perspective, is that something that you'd say is typical, or is that kind of your spin? Like you want that perspective so you can make your analysis.
That is a form that I designed that I thought would be great to integrate that question into the employee incident form, because I want to know what their thoughts are. The best feedback you can get is from an employee, because they're the one that's actually on the floor doing the job.
Yeah. Has that been helpful with you, just kind of getting to the meat of the issue, so to speak, when you're dealing with these situations?
Yeah, because I majored in psychology. So I'm looking at it as we're gaining valuable feedback from the employee about the hazards out on the job site. We're asking them for valuable feedback. And so if there's a safety investigation and the employee is playing an active role in that investigation, then that, I think, boosts morale.
Yeah.
And then also, if there's a tailgate meeting due to some incident that happened, and the employee's feedback provided valuable information for the supervisor to take back and do a training on, I think that boosts morale as well.
Sure.
So I look at this question as a helping identify the root cause issue to prevent reoccurrence, but then also there's an element of the employee feeling like they're participating in something important that the company is doing to prevent accidents from happening in the future. They're participating in the safety program.
Yeah, well, that's really neat.
So all of these things play a role. So this gathering of information, or AKA investigation, is really helpful.
Well, what's really fascinating about that is it really works at a micro and macro level.
Absolutely.
As you're investigating an individual incident, where was the breakdown, right? But then you're dealing with a client who has all of these, let's say 500 of these forms. And then you're doing analytics on, where are your problem issues? You seem to keep having this communication breakdown issue, or you seem to have these skin exposure issues.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating. And you can address that stuff before it becomes a problem with the insurance company.
Absolutely.
They're getting hit with more premiums.
Yeah. This takes a little bit more legwork, but it's going to save you so much money in the future.
Right. Well, it pays dividends, right?
Absolutely, because you're preventing reoccurrences. And the last section of this form is corrective action. What are we doing to eliminate that exposure? What are we doing to correct it?
Yeah.
Right? What type of training did we do? Or when is it scheduled for? This form also provides a pathway to execution if they use it right, because this form can go up to the president or to whoever's in charge, right? The client should be looking at this and saying, was this corrective issue executed? Was this training executed? If so, when?
I imagine you share this type of data on that macro level we're talking about, at stewardship meetings and stuff like that. What kind of reception do you receive typically? And you say, hey, here's analytics based on your claims data for the past.
I mean, so the response is positive. It's just making sure that this is what is getting done after every incident.
Yeah.
That's the execution. So most people think of accidents exclusively as a loss or liability, but these types of events can be turned into an asset if the proper steps are taken. And the benefits are the improvement of methods and conditions in the workplace, identification of training deficiencies, and the demonstration of management's concern for employee safety, and supervisors add to their knowledge of safety management.
Yeah. This is really cool.
Yeah, this is all really interesting. I hate to cut this short, but unfortunately, this is all the time that we have for today. Thank you, Valerie and James, for coming back and sharing your claims knowledge with us. Please join us again. We love hearing from you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of TSIB Talks. If you like this content, be sure to follow for new episodes. Until next time.